Hey everybody, welcome to Songwriting episode 3. We are talking about a really fun song today. A song I've been listening to a lot. It's probably going to be from a really good album too. We're talking about Houdini by Eminem. Aubrey, What do you think of that?
I mean, it's definitely it's a banger. I'm not gonna lie. Ever since its release, was like a week, 2 weeks ago at this point now.
May
Um,
31st. So yeah, almost 2 weeks.
yeah,
Because we're recording this on June 12th, 2024.
it is definitely a banger. It's a nice return to form for me, at least. Who's I think, as we mentioned in the previous episode, I like all Eminem, but I prefer the darker, Slim Shady era of Eminem compared to where he's at now. Both are great. I just slightly prefer the darker, Slim Shady era.
Yeah,
So this was
I'm really
this
excited
was
for this one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this was like a nice kind of like nostalgia thing for me, and I'm really excited to hear this album, even though it is technically on the death of Slim Shady, which makes me a little sad. But you know,
Who knows? Who knows
maybe
what he's
maybe
gonna
it's
do?
time.
Maybe. So we'll get into that because I think there's a lot to talk about with the name of the album and like nostalgia and how that plays into the song because he's embracing it to a certain extent, you know. So, but we'll get into all of that. Let's start off. Aside from Houdini, what have you been listening to this week? You heard anything good?
Nothing really terribly new. Still, a lot of the Bring Me the Horizon's new album, which is the post-human next gen. Drugs or Destroy, Rebuild Until God Shows. Did you ever listen to Cheetos back in the day?
You know, it's funny. I don't know if you remember this or if you knew about it, but one time in like 6th or 7th grade, Ivan told me that Chiodos was just like Avenged Sevenfold and they might even be better or something. And I was like, no way. There's only one Avenged Sevenfold. And then he played me like 20 seconds and I was like, nope. And now just because you compared them to Avenged Sevenfold, I'm never going to listen to them. It was like a joke at first, but then I literally didn't listen to Chiodos for like 15 years as a joke.
So Craig Owens is the lead singer of Cheetos. There were some drama issues. Basically, I don't know all the details, but he got kicked out or was asked to leave because apparently he had to take quote unquote performance enhancing drugs to make his voice sound a certain way.
Dang.
So then he left that band for an album, maybe two, and created another band where the acronym was drugs, but it stands for Destroy, Rebuild Until God Shows.
Okay.
They just released a new single called Hanger Pains, I think. Let me double check that.
Hanger Pains.
That I've kind of been enjoying.
Anger.
Yeah.
Okay.
But other than that, that's really pretty
Hunger Pangs.
Pretty much it. Yeah.
Hunger Pangs? I think you said Hanger Pangs.
Did I? I'm double checking.
Yeah. I'm seeing Hunger Pangs.
Yeah.
Cool artwork, though.
We're gonna go with that. Yeah. They always have some interesting artsy stuff.
Yeah. Definitely fitting. Definitely fitting for a band called Drugs. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he rejoined Cheetos, and then after they wrote another album together, the whole band like disbanded, basically.
Damn.
But I definitely do not think. Definitely do not think Cheetos and Avenged Sevenfold belong in the same conversation.
No. And again, it was like more of a. It was like a middle school joke. We're like, no, now I'm not going to listen to them just because you want me to. And he's like, dude, just listen to him. I'm like, nope, no, I'm not. And we were like laughing about it. But then I literally, the joke ran on for too long. It ran on for like a decade. And then it's like, okay, maybe I should check this band out.
Yeah.
Now that they're disbanded.
Yes, I enjoy them. I do think they make some great music, and they're definitely super creative. But they're not Avenged Sevenfold status, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, I remember listening to him a little bit and thinking like, okay, yeah, this is cool, but it's not like when I was listening to I don't know what the album's called, but it's kind of like the big one where the cover looks like something from Nightmare Before Christmas. It's like very purpley and
Bone
gray.
Palace, LA.
I think that's it. I just felt like by like the sixth or seventh song, I was like, yo, all these songs sound really similar. Like I'm having trouble distinguishing them. And I always kind of hate it when I'm listening to an album and that happens. Um,
Yeah,
but
I can get behind that.
yeah, I have been listening to some fun instrumental and weirdly enough flamenco stuff that came out this week.
Oh,
So for yeah, well, kind of flamenco. So first off, the song Espada by Clayton King came out. And so it's like he's like an instrumental metal guy, but he's only released like 3 songs at this point. But last year, his first single, Equivalent Exchange, was actually one of my most listened songs because the guitar work is just awesome. Like he's a great guitarist. And so he nails it on Espada. I do think that it's a little samey to Equivalent Exchange. Like he does a lot of the same like things and sounds and techniques, and even the structure is very similar, but there is this flamenco break in the middle of it which is just awesome. So yeah, Espada by Clayton King, if you want to hear some like just ridiculous shredding. um and then also Tim Henson from Polyphia just did a feature with a flamenco guitarist named Marcin. I don't know if you've ever heard of Marcin, but he's done a couple covers on YouTube of like Kashmir by Led Zeppelin, like flamenco Kashmir. He's like a solo flamenco guitar. Every now and then he'll get like some like drum beats in his songs, but for the most part, it's very like just him like doing stuff on guitar. But him and Tim Henson just put out a song called Classical Dragon, and that one is also just absolutely nuts. Like it just sounds awesome. Very flamenco, very all on like nylon string acoustics. It's phenomenal. So if you want some dope
nice.
guitar work in your life, check those 2 songs
Speaking
out: Espada and
speaking
Classical
of
Dragon. What?
speaking of when you said some dope guitar stuff, I just remembered I actually discovered some new guy called his band. I think he's like a one man show. I haven't listened to a lot of his stuff. He's called
Mhm.
Bernth. It's Bernth. Um,
Okay.
he's got some really interesting stuff. He popped up on like an Instagram ad for me, and like his song was he's like I filled my guitar with water and then played this song on it, and he just seems to do some weird,
Oh,
interesting things like that.
I think I
But
literally saw that video.
you might have. I think it's called
Yeah.
Waterworks. But he seems to have some pretty dope guitar stuff.
Yeah, there's so many really awesome guitarists out nowadays. It's like awesome for me because I remember back in like 2016 when rock music was basically at its lowest. I was like, yo, there is nothing interesting happening with guitar music, and it seems like now it's the opposite. There's so many great guitarists out. It's the best. I'm so happy. So,
It's the
yep.
return of rock and roll.
I know,
Hopefully, maybe.
seriously. Well, that is until Eminem comes back with his new album, uh, gets everybody back into rap.
That's true.
Um,
It can
yeah,
happen.
actually, this year's been a pretty good year for rap with the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef.
Drake drama. Yeah.
Yeah, that was intense. We should do one of those songs because holy cow, those they got dirty. They got really dirty with that beef. So, um, yeah, but on the more lighthearted end is our song for today, which is Houdini by Eminem. It is, yeah, this song. I guess let's just talk about our personal opinions on this song. Unless you had anything else to go over,
No,
like stuff you've been listening to.
no,
Nope.
yeah, I'm excited to get into this.
Yeah. So
I
what was
mean,
yeah, so let's dive right in. So what were your thoughts like when you first heard it and all that?
so I I loved it. I mean, for me, like I
Mhm.
said, being a fan of the Slim Shady era of Eminem. This was like a kind of return to form, quote unquote. Um, I do feel like the song as a whole, I don't know how else better to describe it, and I feel like what I want to call this like a diet Slim Shady. And really, what
Mhm.
I mean is that it's just more of a mature Slim Shady. It's not quite as vulgar and obscene or aggressive, in my opinion, as some of like the older stuff. Because looking back at some of the older Slim Shady, I was like, oh, I don't know that some of that
Yeah.
stuff can be said today.
Oh, it
uh,
absolutely could not. The stuff he said back then, I mean, my God. Sometimes I go and listen to it and I'm like,
I was
how,
about to say,
like,
sometimes I'm
how
like,
did,
ooh,
like,
I,
what in the world? Like,
yeah, I'm like, oh, I like this. Like this was like peak for me at this point, and now listening to it
yeah,
as an adult, it's just you know, obviously, I guess I'm just older and more mature as well, perhaps. But I was kind of like,
it's,
hmm,
well, see, that's the thing though. That's like the interesting thing about Eminem is that, like, I think the thing, especially when he first showed up in rap, is that he was so controversial. He would say these things and they're just ridiculous. But anybody who is a musician, especially the rappers, like, it's almost like what he was saying didn't matter. It was the flow and the rhythm of the words and the skill that he did it was that was what made it work. Because I think anybody can come out and say controversial things, but he came out and said controversial things and also was the best rapper like of all time at like when he came on. Like people, I remember I was listening to an interview from Snoop Dogg, and Snoop Dogg was talking about how he'll never have Eminem on one of his songs or his albums ever because of what he did to Jay-Z and on Renegade. I don't
hmm.
know. Have you heard that? Have you heard
Oh yeah,
Renegade?
yeah,
Yeah.
I never did.
So the thing is, and he was talking about what that was like listening to that, because at the time when that album came out, I think that was like, what would that have been, 2000, 2001, something like that, when the Blueprint came out. Um, I'm gonna check that real quick actually, but Jay-Z was huge. Like Jay-Z was already like this huge force in rap music, and the idea was like, okay, yeah. Blueprint came out. Oh wow, it actually came out on September
21, yeah,
11th,
oh 01,
September 11th, 2001.
yeah.
Um, anyway, the idea with
Well,
that was like Jay-Z was, huh?
I was gonna say
What?
that. I mean, the Blueprint album was one of definitely at that time one of the best rap albums ever released, but I think it'll also stand the test of time as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, the Blueprint's iconic, and that's what I'm saying. It's not even like Jay-Z's amazing, but the thing was the perception when that came out was like, holy cow, like the white boy just smoked Jay-Z like on his own record, on his own album. Like what? And so there was this respect that came from the hip hop community towards Eminem that was like, well, and a lot of people didn't like him, but the people who understood the craft got it immediately. Like, whoa, Busta Rhymes talks about the first time he heard Eminem, it was like he couldn't even stay. He like was falling over in the bus because of the stuff he was saying. He's like, oh my god, who is this guy? And even Dre was the same way. And so the thing is like he was able to say these controversial things because he had the skill to back it up, and that's Eminem. That's kind of the conundrum, right? Because he's not just some dumb guy saying controversial stuff. He's like an extraordinarily talented rapper and musician in general. So yeah. Uh, but with all that said, holy cow, some of the stuff he said, yeah, jeez,
Yeah.
Kim.
I mean,
Oh
yeah,
my
I
god.
like it's kind of like I cringe listening to some of the older stuff now because I'm like, oh, I liked this.
Yeah, it's funny when I go back. So I actually didn't grow up listening to Eminem. I like my first Eminem album was Recovery, and then I
Hmm.
listened to the
Oh
Eminem
wow, so
show.
you were
I
like
actually,
super late into the game.
dude, I was late to music. I think I talked about this on the Hell's Bells episode, but like I didn't listen to any rock music until like sixth or seventh grade. Like I was way late to the game on
You mean
all
rap
music.
music? I think you said rock. You didn't listen to rock music until like seventh grade?
No, dude, I listened to country. I listened to country music.
Oh.
I would listen to like Big and Rich and like, I mean, I guess Nickelback, but like, you know. But I remember like that. Yeah, like Nickelback was probably the heaviest thing I listened to, and then I found Linkin Park. I want to say I found Linkin Park in like fifth or sixth grade, and then I listened to that, and then I was listening to like All American Rejects and stuff, and The Fray in like seventh grade, and then eighth grade was when I went over to a friend's house and started playing Guitar Hero, and that's when I heard. That's literally when I heard like "Sweet Child of Mine" by Guns N' Roses for the first time, or like Van Halen and
Oh,
all of
that's
these
where you went
songs.
wrong.
Hey, that's where I went right. All right, my New Year's resolution the first time I played guitar, my first year of playing guitar, was to be able to play "Sweet Child of Mine" all the way through by the end of the year. So,
Okay,
hey,
look at you.
yeah, look at
Um,
me. Anyway, coming back
Also,
around. So I was really late to. Oh, what were we gonna say?
I was gonna say everybody likes Nickelback. They just don't like to admit it. And I will make that statement here. It'll be recorded forever. I enjoy Nickelback, and I don't care what other people have to say about it. Everybody has that one album for sure on their
Mhm.
iTunes playlist.
You know, Aubrey, I'm going to 100% back you up on that, and I have felt like this the entire time. I have debated people on Nickelback over the years. You know, when it was like a joke or a meme to be like, "Ooh, Nickelback," I was like, y'all are crazy. Nickelback rules. I love Nickelback. They are so much fun. Their songs are great. Great band. Still together, more than most bands can
Yeah,
say.
that's
Still rocking
true.
out.
And
So
yeah,
anyway, though, we are not here to defend
no,
Nickelback.
that's a future episode probably.
Yeah, which we will. You know, we actually should do that episode because that
Yes, we'll call it
why
the Nickelback
Nickelback
defense.
why Nickelback is better than your favorite band.
Oh God, yes, I like
Maybe
that.
not. All right, back to Eminem. Anyway, yeah. So I didn't listen to Eminem until I was like a junior in high school, and then I didn't get to because I take my time. I go real slow when I find a new artist, like listening through their albums. So I actually didn't listen to like the Slim Shady LP or the Marshall Mathers LP like all the way through until I want to say I was a sophomore in college. Like it took me a few years to finally get there. Um, and I was blown away because again, musically speaking, like it doesn't matter what he's saying, his rapping skill and the musicality of like his rapping is like top tier. It's unbelievable the way that he can put words together and his rhyme schemes, and like we talked about on the last episode, like his melodies, the rhythm, the pitch, the flow, all of it. It's crazy. As a guitarist who can like shred and stuff, I've got a lot of like I have a lot of empathy. Is that the right word for like somebody else who can rap that fast and say words that fast, but also have meaning to the words and have the flow get right and say it precisely and all of the things that go into doing something that takes like technical proficiency. So
Yeah, for sure. It's one thing to be fast. It's another thing to be fast and like artful.
exactly. And so that's so kind of let's kind of get more into Houdini now because we
Yeah.
got off on a tangent, but Houdini's kind of interesting because I feel like the last few albums, Eminem, especially like Kamikaze and Music to Be Murdered By, Eminem was really like, I mean, he was rapping his ass off, quite frankly. I mean, he was just rapping like crazy. I mean, just going as hardcore on the rapping. And so I was very curious what he was going to do on this album and this record. I think is it's the first song we've heard from it, so we haven't heard the album yet. It'll be interesting, maybe listening back to this after the album comes out, but it sounds like he's going more for like the musicality and the enjoyment of a song rather than trying to just rap as hard as he can, because I think the lyrics on this or the rapping on this song is way more palatable to like a wider audience than something off of Music to Be Murdered By or Kamikaze. What do
I
you
can
think?
get behind that. Yeah, I agree. So I was not. I it took me a while to get into Music to Be Murdered By. Kamikaze I liked right out of the gate because I think he was
Mhm.
just like on a mission with that album, which I liked.
Yeah, same.
Um, and to me, him being on a mission kind of reminded me of again old Slim Shady era. So I liked
Yeah.
his antics there. Um,
Mhm.
Music to Be Murdered By, I didn't love until I sat down and like really listened to it, if that makes sense. Like, and I started looking at lyrics and
Mhm.
just the things he was saying. But I definitely have respect for that album as far as
Mhm.
like what he was trying to do artistically. Like, it's almost kind of like innocent. I mean, I guess it is a concept album, right? Like, you agree with me there?
Yeah, it's meant to be like it's all Alfred Hitchcock themed. He
Yeah.
doesn't always sing about explicitly Alfred Hitchcock stuff. Like he does have like a fun song with Ed Sheeran on there, but even like the music and the beat on like the Ed Sheeran song are very, you know, it's like dark, nighttime, 50s murder, mystery, horror type vibe on all the songs. Um, and I just loved that production. Yeah, I think I like Kamikaze more than Music to Be Murdered By, but I something about Music to Be Murdered By I just thought was so cool. But again, even Music to Be Murdered By, he was just rapping like a psycho. I mean, like Godzilla,
Yeah.
it's crazy, And so, yeah, I think when I first heard Houdini, when he came out, because I watched it with the music video for the first time, it was like immediately the nostalgia, like, oh, he's going old school, like he's having fun, and yeah, it was all throughout the music video, there were so many moments where I was just laughing when he flips off his kids,
Yeah.
like I was cracking up. I mean, he's having fun, and so I think, I think like you said it's definitely not. I don't think that he's actually trying to be super controversial with this song. In fact, I think he's trying to just have fun and bring it back to like, hey, we can have fun, and maybe even poking at like controversial stuff just to say
Right.
it. But because he definitely brings up a whole lot of like politically controversial things in this song, but he doesn't really go in on it. He's not really
Yeah.
saying anything controversial. He's more of like saying the controversial words without being controversial. You know?
Yeah. He takes a nice neutral. He presents them to you, but doesn't go down any rabbit holes. He's just kind of like there. They're there.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it's now with that said, it is kind of like I don't want to say a one note song because that sounds bad and that's not really what I mean, but the song is simple. And that's actually one of the reasons because I got to pick this one because you picked Hell's Bells last time, and so one of the reasons I wanted to pick this one is because one, like songwriting wise, or like stylistically, I don't think it could be more different than Hell's Bells. I mean, it's rap first off, but it's like zany and crazy, and it's just a very different type of song compared to Hell's Bells. But the song structure is very simple. Like structurally speaking, it's a very simple song. It is, there's a little intro which copies one of his older songs, Without Me, and then it's literally verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus. So there aren't even any pre-choruses or like last time when we were talking about those little 8-second bridges that AC/DC would do, there's none of that. We go straight from the chorus into the verse, into the chorus, into the next verse. Like it is bare bones when it comes to the structure, and the song just moves. It just moves along real quick. So I think it's another good example of like, hey, you don't gotta go crazy complicated with your structure. You don't have to do anything ridiculous. You can keep it simple. Even the background music, it's simple. It's which we'll talk about this because it's sampling Abracadabra by Steve Miller Band.
Not sampling. It is
It,
interpolation. Or
exactly. You're right.
interpolates. Sorry, I went down a
Yes.
whole rabbit hole about this.
Yeah, and I
Um,
really wanted to talk about interpolation because I think it's very interesting. But we'll get to interpolation.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, just in general, the music isn't crazy complicated either. his rapping is complicated. I will say that his verses and his rapping is complicated, but yeah, it's another example, in my opinion, of like songwriting basics being used really well, but in a completely different way. So yeah, that's why I thought it'd be valuable to talk about.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's, like you said, nice to go from two very different genres, but still being able to show the similarities in the music
Yeah,
itself.
yeah. I mean, and the songs are 44 years apart. I mean, so the fact that we can draw comparisons between two songs that were written that far apart, you know, it should tell you something. And both songs are very successful. I mean, Houdini is, I think it got number one everywhere except for the U.S. Billboard, and that's just because they didn't play this song on the radio because it's Eminem. So because of that, he lost out the number one spot to that super lame song by Post Malone and Morgan Wallen. I don't know if you've heard it. It's, dude, I don't know. It's just
I have
generic.
not.
It just
A
sounds like
Falling in
corporate
Reverse.
country. Oh
Falling in
yeah,
Reverse and Jelly Roll did a feature. I don't know if you heard that. So that's got to be the new thing now. Rap. Well, not well.
country.
No.
Country's the move right now. Country is the new
Yeah.
move. Because of Zach Tyler. I think it came in. I think Zach Tyler was the guy who started it with Red. Like they called the genre Red Dirt Country because he kind of took country back to the basics, and he blew up. I think like him and Noah Kahan, something like that.
Noah Khan.
Noah Khan, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the two
Yeah.
of them kind of had these huge country hits about a year or two ago. And then all of the corporations and big pop artists were like, we need to do country. So then you get Beyonce doing country. You get Post Malone now doing country. I mean, even Falling in Reverse, they're doing the country. And it's like, okay. All right. So anyway, though, we're not here to talk about that. Yeah. Um, anything else on like higher like overview level on Houdini before we start going through the song chronologically?
No, no, no. I do
No?
want to talk about the interpolation, but we can do that. I feel like when we in a more appropriate spot.
I think we should talk about it when we get to the chorus.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's I
Yeah.
think right around the 1 minute mark is when it really starts.
Yep. And that's another thing. The song structure for this song, it's like, it's almost like, I don't know what to call it. Like, it's very well planned out. Where like the first chorus starts at 1 minute, the second chorus starts at 2 minutes, the third chorus starts at 3 minutes 30 seconds. The bridge is 15. Like I don't know. It's very coincidental how that worked out. The song is split into increments of 15 seconds, but yeah, we'll talk about interpolation when we get to the chorus because that's where he does the interpolation. I would say he samples the beat but interpolates the chorus. But we'll get there. Anyway, so let's get the song started. So we start off with Voicemail from Paul, which is something that he's done on almost every album.
Do we know? So maybe I'm a bad fan here. I've been listening to Eminem, for around 15, 16 years. I have no idea who the heck Paul is.
Oh,
Should I know who
really?
Paul is?
Dang, Aubrey, fake fan alert. He's his manager. Paul's his manager.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I figured he was somebody like manager, producer-y type of guy.
Yeah, so Paul is Eminem's manager, and Jimmy Iovine, I think his name is. He is the label. He's the record label. He works at the record label for Eminem. So yeah, I think he's got a song. I think that the intro to The Way I Am off of the Marshall Mathers LP has him talking to Jimmy. And he's like, "Hey Jimmy, how you doing?" You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so that's him going in to talk to Jimmy Iovine. I think that's his name, Iovine. And yeah, Jimmy works at the label. Paul is his manager. Paul, I mean, I don't know, man. Think about being Eminem's manager. Like, you got to be, like, you got. Paul's a special type of dude.
Lord of the managers.
Seriously, so it must be like being Taylor Swift's manager. Like, oh man. But I don't know though. I think Eminem would be tougher because of all the controversy. Like you just wake
I was
up,
gonna
it's
say,
like oh, the government's suing me.
right?
Wow.
Yeah, very different, challenging in very different ways.
Yeah. But I guess for anyone who doesn't know, Paul and Eminem are actually very close friends. They've talked about it many times. Like they've got an extremely close relationship. He's been his manager for decades. But running shtick on all the albums is that Paul gives Eminem a call and they record the voicemail. And he tells him what he thinks of the album. He's like, I don't know if this album's gonna work. Please give me a call back. Like I think you're being a little too much. Um, but there's a little bit of a gag in this song about how he's done. Like Paul's quitting, and so he says, "Hey, it's Paul. I was listening to the album. Good effing luck. You're on your own." You know, and Eminem even references it later on in the third verse, where he's like, you know, "Go ahead, Paul. Quit, snake ass prick." You know, and so I think again, feeding back into that like Death of Slim Shady, it's like, oh, Paul quit. Like that's not
Yeah,
good. So
Shady's gone, so is Paul. Bye bye.
it's all falling apart. One of my favorite artists. Anyway, so right off the bat, we get a little bit of nostalgia because anyone who knows Eminem, even if you didn't know who Paul is, uh, you know, like, okay, this is something that he does, the little voicemails. And then we get a straight up, and I was kind of surprised by this, exactly the same intro as we get from Without Me with the Guess Who's Back? Back again.
Yes.
Yeah. What did you think of that? What did you think of that when you were first hearing it?
I mean, it's touching all the nostalgia in my 12 or 13-year-old self.
Yeah.
I mean, I like when like okay, Paul heard his voice a million times, but with the Guess Who's Back, I was like, oh, this is it. I'm in for a treat. Like the first time I'm listening to it,
Hmm.
um, and I didn't know about the music video until a couple days ago when we were talking about it. And like you have to watch the music video to really appreciate the song, or maybe not appreciate it, but it elevates the experience.
Yeah.
I feel like, and it's just, I mean, the music video is perfect for this song,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah, it's funny. So here's where I have to this might be one of my biggest critiques of the song, and it's not a huge critique, but I was actually very surprised that he just did the exact same intro. And from a songwriter's perspective, I'm going to be honest, because I've been ranting and raving about Eminem, but I gotta say the stuff that I don't like too. I feel like he could have done something just a little bit different on this. But
See, I think this was the perfect play,
so
especially, maybe we revisit this after the album's out, but like I feel like this was very well calculated and pulled off.
So that's what I wanted to talk about first was nostalgia because there was and that's my first thing here. Like how does nostalgia play into the quality of the art? So because I think that there's a lot of things that he does on this and I'm going to try to the music video is amazing and everyone should watch it, but I'm going to try to keep the conversation mostly on just the song. So even in just the song, because the music video is full of nostalgia, but the song also has a lot of nostalgia in it too. A whole lot of like little throwbacks and things that he's done before, and even in the bridge before the third verse, he's literally saying like, "Sometimes I wonder what the old me'd say," and that's kind of, I mean, that's literally nostalgia, thinking about the old days. Um, so the intro is a pure like here's the thing. So songwriting wise, he's just copying and pasting what he did on another song. So this is a pure nostalgia play. And so it's kind of interesting for me because I was kind of like, all right. It's one of those things where I get it, but I'm kind of musically I sort of check out because I'm like, yes, this is the same thing. And again, like I said, this might be one of my only critiques of the song, but again, it's hard for me to fault him because, like you said, I think for me as a songwriter, that's how I feel. But this song, I think, is meant to appeal to like more casual listeners or the average, not casual, but like the average listener who might not be like super nerdy, musical, whatever. And I do think it's the perfect play to get people back into like what?
Or they might not know who Paul is. You know, those types of listeners.
Yeah. Well, and actually, yeah, you're right about that. So yeah, that's kind of that's my thoughts on the intro. I was kind of like, oh, when I was listening to it for the first time, I was like, oh, he's just going all like I kind of kept waiting for it to change, but it was like, oh no, he just went straight up, just the same intro. But again, it's I think it's what 20 seconds, and it kind of sets the vibe, it sets the tone because it's not the same. It is a little bit faster, and the beat's different, and so it sets up the song in the sense that like, okay, yeah, we are definitely going back into the past on this one. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of my thoughts. And actually, so let's talk about nostalgia, maybe like on its own, not necessarily related with this song. What do you think about nostalgia when it comes to music? Like, how do you think
I
that plays
think
into it? Like,
so. I'm trying to think of another example where nostalgia has played a role in music for me off the top of my head, and I can't think of a music
mhm,
instance. But I think it's like I think you and I fall pitfall to this with a lot of other. I think a lot of other things. Like nostalgia is a great marketing tool, right?
yeah,
Like it's kind of like I think the best example I can think of that we can both relate to is like the Pokemon games, right? We all played Pokemon Yellow, Blue, Red, all that kind of stuff. A
hmm
new Pokemon game comes out, we'll play the new Pokemon game for a little bit, get tired and bored of it, and then we'll go like, "Why did we do this? We just wasted money on this game." But then the next one will come out, and we'll just kind of rinse and repeat because we want that old Pokemon feel that
right,
we had as a child. You
yeah.
know?
And so maybe that's an interesting thing with it too. Like nostalgia is it can be really valuable, and it can kind of keep you in the loop on like, okay, yeah, this is who this artist is. And I think it'd be different. Well, and that's why we'll get to the interpolation, right? Because he's doing nostalgia with somebody else's song, but he actually
Yes.
did the nostalgia with his own song here, which I think is very interesting. And I don't know if I've ever quite heard it this blatant before, but also it's like it makes total sense. And so maybe let's go back to that like the video game analogy, because I think
Yeah.
nostalgia is like everywhere in video games. They're always trying to
Yeah.
capture the nostalgia.
Even
And
even Halo, Call of Duty. I mean, any big franchise
mhm,
where we have a prime memory, right? Like I'm always gonna buy every Halo game ever made, regardless of how objectively bad they are, because I'm gonna
mhm,
get like a hit of like, oh yeah, this takes me back to the days of Halo 3. You know what I'm saying?
mhm. See, that's where I think maybe I would differ a little bit, because I think I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, when it comes to nostalgia, I'm like, that is how can I what's the best way to put it? It is a finite resource when you are talking about like the quality of your art or your product or whatever you're putting out, and you can use it intelligently and it can be very valuable. And I think that's kind of what he did here, because he doesn't rely on nostalgia to make this song good, in my opinion. In fact, I think his verses are fantastic. They're very much new Eminem, but he still makes them great and appealing. Uh, but if you overuse the nostalgia, if you overdo it, you can very quickly, like I think a band that, here's a good example, Metallica's latest record, 72 Seasons, I think is a great example of a band trying to play off of like their old school vibe and just completely extinguishing the quality of the product as a result.
Yeah, I
What
was
do you?
not a big fan of the new Metallica album.
Mhm.
But that's probably a good example. I was trying really hard to think of a musical nostalgia thing. Maybe we're not old enough to have music nostalgia yet, Cam.
Well, no,
um,
I think you and I are pretty good about like if a band cannot create good art consistently, it's probably not someone we're gonna listen to a whole lot. Like
that's
Avenged
kind of true.
Sevenfold, like Avenged Sevenfold doesn't rely on nostalgia at all. In fact,
Yeah,
sometimes I think to their detriment. Like they could make so like they could sell so many records if they went back and did more guitar dual harmonies and stuff.
Oh
Like
yeah.
but that's the thing though, is they are so against it. It's like antithetical to the way they are as musicians. And I think Eminem, for the most part, is actually very similar to that too. I think he's really good about like every album is a completely different beast. He's always exploring new things to do. Um, which is why I bring up Metallica, because I love Metallica and they're so good. But that latest 72 Seasons album, it was like, yeah, like the idea behind, I mean, 72 Seasons is 18 years, you know? And so the
Yeah.
idea was like they were going back to the old school, like young,
Grunge. Yeah.
right, like just really like,
Thrash.
right. And then it's like they overdid it. They overplayed that vibe because the songs, and maybe we'll get to this at some point in the show, but like the songs were boring in my opinion. They way overstretched that. And it's like, okay, you guys absolutely slacked off on the songwriting on this album compared to the last few albums. And I think y'all thought that the nostalgia was going to hold it over. I mean, they're Metallica; they're never going to have an unsuccessful album. But like,
Yeah.
come on, guys! Like that last song, that's like 11 minutes of the same riff. Like that's unacceptable as a songwriter, in my opinion, especially from a band like Metallica.
Yeah.
So
And that's probably, I think you kind of, made a good point of like a Metallica album is never going to do poorly. It might do poorly by like Metallica standards, but there's in the same way that we're going to always buy all the Halos and Pokemon games, there's always
mhm,
going to be people that buy all the Metallica albums for forever.
yeah, no, exactly. And so that's the thing. It's like I think another you can use this with TV shows and stuff too. Like you see what's happening with Star Wars now, where like most of the stuff that comes out for Star I don't think you're a Star Wars guy from what I remember.
Um, I very much so like 1 through 6. I have not kept up with like the Mandalorian. Really, since Disney taken over, I have dropped off in my Star Wars viewership.
Yeah, so you are probably better off because of it. I dropped off after the Kenobi show, and it's because Kenobi, like the show was purely based on nostalgia, right? For Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen as Obi-Wan and Anakin. Um, but the problem is like the show was terrible. They wrote those characters horribly. The writing was bad. The story was bad. They had like 5-year-old Princess Leia doing like jumps and crap. It was terrible. And so the thing is, it's like nostalgia can only carry you so far. You still have to deliver on the quality. So maybe that's kind of a thing for me where I'm like, when I see an obvious nostalgia play, I'm like, maybe I've just been burned by it a little bit, but I'm like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you pandering? But when it comes to this song and this stage of Eminem's career specifically, I I can't say that it was a bad move or like I don't get it. I think maybe I would have liked it if he had thrown other like maybe because he's got lots of intros where he does stuff like that, maybe thrown other stuff. And again, that's just my songwriter side. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get that.
Yeah. So I
I
don't
like.
know. What were you saying?
I was gonna say I like this.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like I think for a lot of people who maybe well, first off, don't follow Eminem's career as closely as I do, because I listen to everything he puts out the day he puts it out. I've loved the last few albums. I still listen to them. So to me, it doesn't feel like Eminem really went away. But I think that there's a huge part of his audience that kind of hasn't been paying attention just because he's been doing stuff like Music to Be Murdered By. And to be fair, Music to Be Murdered By came out in 2020. Like it's been 4 years since even that album came out, and a lot of people might not have been paying attention to him then. So I think for like the older fans and like people who might not be as super dialed into what he's doing, it's like the perfect way to kind of bring him back in, and so
Yeah,
I
I can
get
get
it.
behind that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess here's my like final stamp on it. I think nostalgia is a finite resource. You have to be really careful how you use it. I personally am a little iffy when it comes to just completely reusing, like copying and pasting a section from another song in your new song just for nostalgia, but also as a marketing move and just a like in general understanding your fan base and where and your place in their memories type of move. I think this was perfect. It was a really good use of it, very smart, and it's a solid intro to get us into the song, which I'm going to be way less critical of because I think that the song holds up extraordinarily well on its own without nostalgia. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Hey everybody, real quick, Cameron stepping in with a little cut here. Aubrey's audio actually glitched out for about 5 to 10 minutes. So there's going to be a little jump cut here, but essentially we discussed interpolation and what it is, the difference between interpolation, sampling, and covering a song. So I'm just going to give you the quick summary of what we discussed. Interpolation is when you take the melody of the song or some aspect of the song and use it to create something new. So, for example, you would take a vocal melody. The example I gave was there's a song popular right now that interpolates "Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Die." That I'm good, yeah, I'm feeling all right. That song, if you've heard it, and it just changes the lyrics and adds lyrics to it. To sample a song is when you actually use an audio recording of the song to as part of your song. So it's very common in rap music. They sample lots of stuff all the time. And then to cover a song is when you play the exact same composition and the melodies and the lyrics and everything, but you kind of recreate it in your own way. We said, Eminem definitely interpolates the chorus of Abracadabra by the Steve Miller Band, but the music is more of like a cover. He's kind of just using the same music. But yeah, we also discussed how the Steve Miller Band came out and actually approved of Eminem doing this, and that most likely means that Eminem reached out to him like months ago, maybe even years ago, and asked for his permission. And so it's a much better way to go about using somebody else's music if you're going to do that, to always make sure that you have their permission. Otherwise, you can get into lawsuits and stuff. We discussed the Coldplay lawsuit where Coldplay was sued by Joe Satriani for using the same chord progression and almost the exact same melody as Joe Satriani did, as well as the Ed Sheeran and Marvin Gaye lawsuit where Marvin Gaye sued Ed Sheeran for, I think the song was Thinking Out Loud, for using the same chord progression. And I think that case was dismissed because there's only so many chords that you can use, and you can't copyright a chord progression, and the two songs don't sound similar at all. Last but not least, I wanted to give a shout out to Aubrey's dad, because Aubrey could not get he couldn't quite figure out what the song was, that was being interpolated. I think he knew, his gut was telling him that it was like ABBA or something, just because of the abracadabra. But he went through and just couldn't figure it out. So he gave him a call, and his dad was immediately like, "That's Abracadabra by Steve Miller Band." And he was like, "Oh yeah, okay, that it would have been better to just call you." So shout out to Aubrey's dad. And yeah, we're just gonna keep talking about the music, or we're gonna pick up talking about the music of the song. So I just didn't want y'all to think that we didn't discuss it being an interpolation of Abracadabra by Steve Miller. So yep, hope you enjoy the rest of the show. But yeah, the music's pretty standard. It's just like a very magician. They're going for like this, the kooky magician, like dum 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 dum.
Yeah.
So nothing too crazy happening. A lot of open space. It actually is very similar to a lot of Eminem's beats back in the old days. Um, like Without Me and The Real Slim Shady and all of that. Just very like, because he would do that. He'd kind of get these like goofy little beats and then just say the most raunchy crap you've ever heard on them. And so that was part of the shtick, especially like the Eminem show. So, all right, but yeah, let's get into the first verse, because the first verse he starts out, and that's where I think we're going to talk a lot about, because there's so many great lyrical things here. Yeah, he starts it off. Well, look what the stork brung, little baby devil with the forked tongue, and it's sticking out, yeah, like a sore thumb, with a forehead that it grew horns from. So yeah, what do you think about that, Aubrey? What do you think about how it starts?
I think that it is just pure Eminem lyrical genius uh, in a nutshell. It's nothing super crazy complex, but he paints the picture well, right, and tells a story. And you have
Yeah,
no idea, like
yeah,
there's no
and
question of what he's talking about. Like it's like you know.
yeah, yeah. I think we talked about it a little bit with the Hell's Bells, but it's like starting the lyrics off with some imagery and like setting the stage, setting the scene, because he could just jump right into saying like something controversial, right off the bat. But there's some he understands that even on like a fast-paced song like this, where he just had his 30-second intro, because yeah, the first verse starts right at the 30-second mark. Getting that little bit of imagery of like, well, look what the stork brung, little baby devil with the forked tongue. It's like immediately we're going back to like, you know, younger days, like we're evoking younger imagery. But then also the little devil with the forehead that it grew horns from. So it's like, okay, we're going a little more immature. Like we're just setting the scene. And I know it seems like we might be diving into that a little too much, but you got to remember, like this guy's probably been planning this album for like 4 years now, and these are the first real words that you're going to hear from him on the whole press tour for this album. Like he's going to think about it. He's going to be very careful about what he's saying and how to start this song off. So yeah, um, we start off just little baby with the forked tongue. Then we get into a still a white jerk pulling up in a Chrysler to the my lyrics are cutting off to the cipher with the Vicks Perks and a Bud Light shirt. So yeah, I mean, he immediately goes up to like, I'm still that same old me with the still a white jerk pulling up in a Chrysler to the cipher, which if you don't know,
Yeah,
cipher is like a rap.
not not to be confused with Kid Rock.
Oh what? Oh, because of the
That was a
Bud Light
Bud Light
shirt.
reference. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and see that's the thing too. You could say that maybe that was a purposeful thing on his end to put a little, again,
Yeah,
like it's what?
I was gonna say I was curious about that, but no, he's definitely he's not referencing Kid Rock. I just was making a joke, but he's definitely like he's painting a picture of kind of like his Slim Shady
Yeah,
vest.
ghetto boy pulling up to the cipher, white boy pulling up to the cipher.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I think even the Bud Light shirt, like that's kind of like a little. I do think he probably put that in there to just as like get started on the controversy, because there would probably be people who listen to this song, and that was the fun thing about Eminem back in the day is that he kind of went at everybody. Nobody was really safe, and in fact,
yeah,
the more that you tried to fight against it, the more that he'd go at you because you know like learn to take a joke, like learn to roll with it. And so, he does have some lines that could be perceived as like right wing, where he talks about like, I will hit an 8-year-old with a participation trophy, but like then he's got a little thing like this, like, oh yeah, I'm wearing the Bud Light shirt, like.
yeah,
So again, we're not gonna get super political, but we're just noting that like, hey, he's he's going at both. He's gonna hit everybody and not super explicitly, but just I'm sure there will be some conservative somewhere who's like, oh, I can't listen to Eminem because he talks about wearing a Bud Light shirt. It's like, all right, well, you have just, you don't get it then. You have just fallen right into the trap that is Eminem's music of like, oh, he offended me with that one line, so I can't listen to him. It's like, all right. And then we get what I think is probably like the first real bar, which is the lyrical technician and electrician, y'all light work, which is fun. Funny little line.
yeah. I mean, that's just Eminem genius coming through there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I will note this too. So Eminem throughout his like a lot of his songs, he's always been really good at telling like these metaphors or these bars that will they just seem to never end. Like and not in a bad way. Like he's like the wordplay for one topic or like one session of wordplay, whatever you want to call it, will go on for like 5 or 6 lines. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I think you know what I mean, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, like I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head too, but I can't. But yes,
it's tough because they're very complicated and they're usually very long, but it'll be like this extended metaphor that goes on, and it's crazy impressive. He'll take every word possible that could have any dual meaning. I think hold up, there is a really good one in the song "Not Alike." Hold on, let me pull that up because I do want to give like a little example.
yeah.
Uh,
Checking.
checking. Yeah. Let's see. He says this has not to do with This is off of Not Alike, which was actually like the first MGK disc. But he says, "Gats cock, your partners better tool up. This has not to do with muscular, but have guns for sure. You better put a strap on. Other words, if you're a gunner, roll up with your gang. You're gonna need an arsenal because this bar is over your head. So you better have arms if you're gonna pull up." So, I mean, the layers of metaphor there. So, first off, guns can refer to your muscles. Like, oh, yeah, you got guns for muscles. Strap on, that's, your strap is a gun. Keep the strap on you. And then he says, other words, if you're a gunner and you roll up with your gang, you're going to need an arsenal, which is a piece of workout equipment, but also like a series of guns. Because this bar is over your head, which means that, like, if you're going to come at me in a rap way, like I set the bar that is too far over your head, but also like a bar, physical bar at a gym. And then he says, so you better have arms if you're going to pull up. So again, it's like on the rapping side, he's saying you better be ready if you're going to come at me with bars, like with, and even I even just caught that the rap bar, the lyrical bar is over your head too. He says, so you, like,
so that's where my brain went first, where your brain went physical bar, like pull up bar. So I went rap bar mentally.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing, because it could be rap bar, it could be physical pull up bar, and then it could be like the metaphorical, like I set the bar high. But then he says,
Yeah.
so you better have arms if you're going to pull up, meaning like, okay, if you're going to diss me, you better be ready. You need to have physical arms if you want to do a pull up. And then also with guns, if you're going to pull up on the street, you need to have guns with you. So we've got like a triple metaphor going on for what is this 8 lines. It's crazy. So that's insane. And he does stuff like that all the time. So I think it's really funny when you come over to Houdini and he says lyrical technician, electrician, y'all light work. And that's the end of the bar. And it's like, and it's really funny too. It's a funny line. It's really good. But yeah, very simple for him. He's just having fun. So anyone who's like, oh my God, he's always just talking, it's like, no, that's a good one. Okay, so then he gets more into like I think these next few lines are pretty normal, but he says them really interestingly. The melody is really good. And I don't gotta play pretend it's you, I make believe, or it's something like that. He does like these little pauses.
And I don't gotta play pretend it's you. I make believe, and
That's
I'm here to say because I'm me. If I was ever to take a leave, it would be aspirin to break. Oh, okay, I messed that last part up. But
yeah.
yes, it's
Well, and
very.
so no, what were you gonna say?
It's very. I was gonna say rhythmic, but melodic is probably the better word.
No, actually, rhythmic is right. I mean, it is the melody because he is singing a melody, but like that is very rhythmic. The da 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 da, you know, but it's not crazy complicated either. But that actually is a very new Eminem thing to do. He raps a lot like that now, where he's got like these little pauses and kind of it's a little janky, but the way he says it here and the words that he says, it makes the delivery a little bit more. It makes it more fun and flow a little bit more smoothly than on some of his other records from his newer discography. But yeah, that's a fun little line too, where he says, I don't gotta play pretend it's you, I make believe. Like I'm making you believe in me. Um, but yeah, fun stuff. And then it's like, and I'm here to stay because if I was to ever take a leave, it would be aspirin to break a fever, with the
Yeah.
Aleve being, Aleve, the medicine.
Yes. And I actually did not catch that Aaliyah part until just now.
Yeah. See? And that's the craziest thing with Eminem, because a lot of people just say, "Oh, he just raps fast," but there's always like these little meanings and metaphors. But yeah, if I was to ever take a leave, it would be aspirin to break a fever.
Yeah. The nurse
So
in me
then
is
we,
very disappointed.
yeah, right. Dang, Aubrey. Fake fan alert.
I'm
Woo.
hey, I'm not doing good here. Don't know who Paul is. I'm a nurse and I missed the Aleve. I got the
Yeah,
aspirin though.
right. How did you miss that? It took me a little while to
Oh,
get that one. I think there was one line later on that took me like a week to get, and I was like, oh, that's what he's saying. Okay, but then we get into like probably what is, funnily enough, the most controversial part of this whole song. um I don't know if you know about this section where like it blew up
I
on Twitter.
I don't. I was gonna say when I listened to. I mean, I've listened to it like 100 times. I felt like there was some kind of background story to this reference. I just was not aware of.
Yeah, so the rapper Tory Lanez shot Megan the Stallion in the foot, like actually, and he went to jail for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when he
That
says,
makes.
if I'm right, if I was to ask for Megan the Stallion if she would collab with me, would I really have a shot at her feet? I don't know, but I'm glad to be back. So again, it's like he's not dissing her. In fact, he's saying like, what if I asked her to collab with me? Like, but Twitter lost their minds. The Megan the Stallion fans, they were going crazy. How can you take her trauma and use it for a lyrical line?
That's what Slim Shady does.
Yep. That is exactly what he does. Um, all right, we get to the chorus. Now we can talk about interpolation. Because yeah, this chorus is basically, melodically speaking, and with the line "Abracadabra," it is a direct rip from the song "Abracadabra" by the Steve Miller Band. And so I'll just go through the lyrics real quick, and then we'll talk about it. So it's just abracadabra, and then he does that little like very Slim Shady-esque thing with like, and for my last trick, that little quick thing,
Yeah.
doing a lot of like little chicken. I'm about to reach in my bag, bruh, and then abracadabra, just like that, and I'm back, bruh. So, what do you think, Aubrey?
I think that it lines up perfectly with the
You
message the
there,
song is trying to get across. Oh,
Aubrey?
oh,
Hello,
can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Mic check.
well,
Cameroni?
gang, it's just me
No, I'm
now.
here.
Am I losing my signal? Is it me?
I don't
Hello?
know. Hello?
Oh, could you hear me that whole time?
Oh, yeah, I was talking the whole time.
I couldn't hear anything. I think my thing
That's
got
weird.
disconnected. Sorry. Okay,
That's
so
okay.
what
No, no, no,
what do
you're
you think
good.
of the chorus? Yeah.
Um, I mean, I think it's simple. It's great. I think it is a great use of
Hello?
interpolation. Oh, what? Really? Is it interesting? Can you hear me again? Cameroni, lend me your
I
ear.
can't hear
Boom,
again.
boom, boom, boom. That's not good. I can hear you. I can hear you. Shot at the feet.
Aubrey?
Yep. Yep. I still hear you. I've been waiting for
Aubrey, can you hear me? I can't hear
Cameron.
anything. Hey,
Yeah, I hear everything.
okay, mine, like if you're talking, I can't hear it. So, but
Yeah.
it looks like it's my problem. Um, so it does, because I can see my voice connection thing going down. Okay. Um, I'm sorry if you've said it now like 3 times.
More than that.
Dang. Okay, hold on. Let me think. Is there something I can do to like? I'm gonna close more tabs or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Shelby might be watching YouTube or some bullshit. Okay, let's give it another try. All right, you ready?
All right.
I'll count down. 3, 2, 1. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. We had some technical difficulties. All right, Aubrey, what do you think about this chorus?
So I think that it is, simple, but also very well done in the sense of I think you could not have picked another song that would you could interpolate better. Which that's like I feel like a weird thing to say, but I feel like Eminem was very conscientious with this song choice to interpolate with. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that's the correct way to use that word, but whatever.
Whatever.
And yeah, I mean, it's very much so uh, nothing. I wouldn't say it's anything super fancy. It's very Slim Shady esque. I feel like it is kind of. I think the one thing that kind of maybe bugs me about the chorus is hearing Slim Shady slash Eminem say "bruh," and I don't know why. "Bruh" every time it gets said in the song, like rubs me the wrong way.
I am so glad you said that because I think that's one of the it's weird. And I don't like that he says it twice. I'm about to reach my bag, bruh, just like that, and I'm back, bruh. It's
Yeah,
like that's the best you could do. You're like the king of words. Um,
yeah. I don't know
yeah,
why, but hearing Slim Shady slash Eminem say "bruh" just really like jars me.
yeah, it is weird. I think for me, um, I this chorus is actually I think it's a lot of fun. I love that he put that little like, and for my last trick because it kind of puts his own spin on it. Um, but I think it's a very safe chorus. I think it's meant to be.
Yeah, there's a part of me that found kind of like and M's done this throughout his whole career, I think, for the most part, with like his little like because my last trick, like those little what would you like ad lib insertion things.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be an ad lib.
Yeah, here like I felt like it was overdone a lot throughout this whole song, and it kind of got on my nerves the
All of the
longer.
ad libs,
Not all of them,
just the
but
last track.
well, okay, so all of them in the sense of like I don't know, I felt like they were overdone too much, if that
Yeah,
makes sense. Um, I don't
yeah,
know. I just found myself annoyed by bruh and all the ad libs by the end of the song.
yeah. I could definitely see that. And I mean, it's funny because we got the lyrics pulled up, and you can see that like after almost every line, he's got some little ad lib or like, haha, yeah, what, buzz, what, guy, why, what, yeah, what. So it's like I could definitely see that. Um, I kind of tune him out if I'm being honest. Uh, I do like and for my last trick, I do think that that's a lot of fun. Um, that gets stuck in my head all the time.
Yeah.
So, and I think that it does. I think it's probably a good way to put his own unique stamp on the chorus. But the chorus is definitely super safe. Um, I'm about to reach in my bag, bruh. Like, I guess you could say that that's like, oh, like a magician, but I don't know. It's pretty meh. And then just like that, and I'm back, bruh. Like that's again, nothing really crazy happening here, and I think that's what it's meant to be. Like I think it was supposed to be just a little bit of a crowd pleasing chorus, just kind of fun, chill. Um, I will say, as far as an interpolation goes, this is one of my more favorable examples of it. I'm going to be honest with you. Most of the time, when artists interpolate, I absolutely hate it. Um, so I guess we can just talk about interpolation in general. I think in general, 95% of the time, it's extraordinarily cheap. Like that, like I mentioned before, that
Yeah.
Blue Dabba Dee, the cover of like that Blue Dabba Dee song where she's saying like I'm good, yeah, I'm feeling all right. She basically replaces it with like generic dance, club lyrics, and I just think it is the cheapest form of nostalgia baiting. Like I'd rather you just do a chorus,
Yeah.
a cover.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm actually
Um,
super critical of interpolating most of the time. Um,
it just kind of feels like a hack job.
yeah.
I think for the most, when a lot of people do it, whereas this to me does not. Like this is very much so. I think very far removed from the original like essence of the
Mhm.
Steve Miller stuff. So much so to the part where I thought it was ABBA and not Steve Miller.
Well, I
Um,
think I think this one is just a bit more I would consider it respectful. Like and the fact that even where he keeps the abracadabra, like that's very uniquely Steve Miller. And so it's almost like
yeah,
rather than saying like, "Oh, why don't I change those lyrics?" Like I don't know. It just feels much more respectful and more like he's paying homage to Steve Miller and like saying, "Hey, like I really
yeah,
love your song. I want to use it. I want to use the beat. It's going to fit with this idea I have that's going to be completely different than the original Abracadabra song." And and again, I have no doubt that he probably reached out to Steve Miller personally and was like, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And obviously Steve Miller approved and gave him the okay. And so the whole thing to
yeah,
me just was way more like above board respect between musicians. Uh, and again, it's like, I don't think that it's relying on Steve Miller to make the song great. Eminem is still absolutely performing on it, you know?
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's not. I think you're right. Kind of like what you said with the Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Die song is very much so. It's using the skills and talent that another artist has utilized to kind of enhance their own
Mm-hmm.
uh, rendition. Whereas this
No,
is like,
no one would listen
oh,
to that song if it didn't have the Blue Dabba D melody, you know?
I can't speak to that because I haven't heard it. But
It is an extraordinarily bland club song. There's nothing interesting about it. The only reason it is popular is because of the Blue Dabba D melody.
yeah,
So it's yeah, and I've heard a few other songs like that, and I can't quite pin them down. And that's almost the most annoying part too, is that they'll use those songs, they'll use the melody, and everybody's probably heard the melody because it was playing, since they were a kid. Like everyone knows Blue Dabba D, even if they don't know the song. And there's a lot of songs like that you just hear and you're like, oh, I forgot about that song, but it was like hugely popular song that still will play in like Target or Walmart. But
yeah,
then they'll just use that melody and bank on you like recognizing that melody just to squeeze a little bit of nostalgia attention from you towards their song. So I don't know. I hate it. I don't like it.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of another example of another artist, and I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I think there's a Bon Jovi song that's been interpolated like 3 times. Um, I can't think of it either. I again, it's kind of funny because I think a lot of songs that do that, like that do the interpolation, they're not memorable. You know, They're-
Well, you remember the song that was interpolated, but not the song
yeah,
like,
exactly, because they don't add anything to it. Which again, I think that's props to Eminem because this song, I definitely don't think about Abracadabra when I think about this song, but
yeah,
it did make me go and listen to Abracadabra, and that's why I said like keeping the words abracadabra, like that part of the chorus in there, it will draw people to back to that song.
yeah, I agree, 1,000%.
Yeah, so there again, there's just in terms of interpolating as like something that you can do as a musician, I think this is probably the best way you could have gone about it, like more of a paying homage and changing and adding your own spin on things, versus just copying a melody that you hope people will remember to give your song a little more attention. Like I think this is way more preferable, and yeah, I like it way much more. So or much more, not way much more.
Way
Jeez,
much more.
I like way much more. All right. Okay. Did you have anything else for the chorus?
No, I mean, I think I think we're kind of on the same page of
It's
everything
safe,
here.
it's normal, it's fine, nothing crazy. Um, I do want to give a little note. Last time we talked about how like going from the AC/DC chorus, Hell's Bells chorus into the verse, there was like a little bridge to take a break. Eminem does the exact opposite here, where like at the very end of the chorus, there's a very slight pause, like a very quick pause that lasts like one beat, and then he goes right into the verse. Now, back in the days of old me, right around the time I became a dope fiend, like so he's whereas ACDC knew like, okay, if we're gonna play this big song in a stadium, like we gotta have this big chorus and then give the listener a break. Eminem knows that, or Eminem's goal with this song is to not let up and to make it just keep going and like keep the zaniness and the craziness going. Uh, and so he doesn't give the listener a break. There is no musical break at all in this song actually. And so you just get, I think there's like a little musical like do 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 right before the first verse, but that's more of like a lead in to the song rather than like a break or a bridge. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out to kind of contrast what we were talking about last time, where we jumped straight into the second verse on this song. No breaks. We're going full steam ahead. So also I don't think there's any changes to the music in the chorus either. I did want to note that it's all pretty, which actually is pretty normal for Eminem. So just another interesting little difference. Just take a little water.
I think worth pointing out. I'll wait for that sip to be done.
I'm good.
Okay. I think that's worth and like interesting thing to point out. Kind of how we talked about, Hell's Bells copy and paste, but they changed up things enough to where it was refreshing. Whereas I think,
Yeah.
Eminem for the most part, and I would maybe say a lot of rap and pop music in general, musically, there's not a lot of variation, and there's not those kind of like refreshing palate cleanser things outside of some lyrical changes, and or probably lyrics rhythmatically or melodically.
Yeah. A lot of the more popular songs actually are almost solely driven by vocals and lyrics. Just because that's how humans work. Like we like listening to other humans say things and what they have to say. I think Eminem's one of the better examples of like he's really great lyrically and vocally, but he actually, when he wants to, can do some extraordinary things musically, especially on Music to Be Murdered By. I think that was one of his most interesting albums musically. But then he's very much capable of taking a song like this, where the beat stays the exact same the whole time, and implementing verses and choruses and bridges, a bridge, and creating a whole song out of essentially like this 10-second loop. And that's very impressive. A lot of artists, if you gave them a loop like that or like a 3-minute instrumental like this, they couldn't keep you engaged and listening the whole 3 minutes. It'd be very difficult.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm trying. I mean, not that I'm a musician by any stretch of the imagination, like like these guys, but I couldn't imagine even just trying to write a song with like a 10-second to 30, and then making it sound entertaining for 4 minutes or anything
Yeah.
like that. Even that's
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of like, again, that's the impressive thing about Eminem is he'll do very difficult things and make them seem very easy. Like even it's funny, even like that little line where we were trying to find that melody. It's like, and I don't gotta play pretend it's you. I make believe, and I'm here to stay. Cause me, if I was to ever take a leap, like when you're listening to it, you could just skim right past that, and maybe you don't ever sing along, but it's like, oh, that's cool what he said. But like the melody there, which is both the rhythm and the notes that he's hitting, are very complicated and hard to pull off well. Takes a lot of skill. So and actually this second verse, let's get into the second verse because I think the second verse has the most musically impressive melody on the song. So yeah, he starts the second verse off with like, now back in the days of old me, right around the time I became a dope fiend, ate some codeine as a way of coping, taste of opiates, case of OE. So like again, that melody is pretty complicated on its own. Um, but he's continuing the story. So we started the first verse off with like, you know, him as a baby, and now it's like him kind of in his career when he was a dope fiend.
Yeah.
You know. So he, again, you could look at it just very simply and be like, oh, it's just a fun song, whatever. But like he's been very careful about that. And in fact, by the time you get to the verse 3, and I'm gonna like skip to verse 3 for just a second. He says, so how many little kids still want to act like me? So the first verse, he's a baby. We're starting the song off. Second verse, we start off in the midst of his career. And the third one, he's actually looking backwards because he's got a very famous song with the line like, don't you kids want to grow up to be just like me? So he's actually reflecting now by the third verse. So there is a progression with the song's lyrics and the verses. So
I never caught that until you pointed that out, which makes sense. Like as I'm singing it, it very like, you know, or like when I'm listening to it, like yes, I'm going on that journey, but I never really caught. I guess that caught my attention in the sense of you're right, he's famous, so like kind of giving you a journey or the path to, you know, from beginning to present day.
Yeah, and I think that's why, like, I know I mentioned it earlier, but that's one of the things where like it's very easy to just listen to the song and be like, oh yeah, whatever, and you just move on. But he spent the time, and I guess that's the point I want to make is like the musicians, kind of like we were talking about with AC/DC, where they knew what they were doing. They sat there and said like, let's put this little break after the chorus. He knows what he's doing here. He's planning this out. He is a lyricist, one of the best lyricists of all time, and he knows like, okay, he probably literally thought I should start each verse off with something like this, you know, and get it to progress in this way, and planned it out. You know, so like when I was kind of going off of like when I started the song off and we spent, you know, however long, 3 minutes talking about the first 4 lines about how like, yeah, he's starting off the song talking about a baby. I'm even I felt it as I was saying it. I was like, this probably seems ridiculous. Like we are way diving into these lyrics, but the truth is like he dives into the lyrics way more than we ever could, and he's a nerd about it. Yeah. And so, you know, when we talk about like thinking about music rationally and actually like using your brain and thinking about what you're listening to and connecting some of those dots, it's like you actually can get a deeper appreciation for the song and it can make you like it more, you know? Because I think that's a really cool thing. Like there is a little story to this song. It's not overarching. It's not like or comprehensive, but there is a little bit of a through line on like, okay, we start at the beginning, then we go to the middle, and then now by the third verse, he's reflecting, and that's what the third verse is sort of a reflection, and that's why, you know, he gets to that point where he's just like, yeah, I'm still this way, where like F them, F Dre, F Jimmy, and all that, and so, you know, even though like I might not be the old me anymore, because I think that's important. He's not trying to be old Slim Shady or like from the old days. He's still 2024 Eminem, but he is reflecting on that. So, yeah.
So, I think that's interesting that you point that out because I am anticipating that the album of the death, you know, the death of Slim Shady is very much so going to be like a very Slim Shady-esque focused or type album, but kind of in a way to kind of I don't want to say bury the hatchet, but like maybe finally like say like Slim's gone, you know, like no more. I am now Eminem 2.0, which I feel like he's been for the past couple albums now, which there's nothing wrong with. But I think like maybe he's just finally like Slim's being put in the closet, I guess, for forever, maybe.
So here's the funny thing, and I'm just gonna note this: Eminem has done this throughout his whole career, where he says like, one last album, and I'm done. And he does that a lot. You know, he can make this big thing about the death of Slim Shady, and then 2 albums from now say like the return of Slim Shady. So like,
I was gonna say
yeah,
resurrected, the resurrection of Slim Shady.
right. And so I think he's pretty good about knowing how to do that really well. And I think that this album isn't so much going to be like the death of Slim Shady as much as it is going to be like a reflection on Slim Shady. Because the truth is, here's the reality, is that Slim Shady's kind of been dead for a while. Like that version of Eminem, that version of Eminem doesn't exist anymore, and he can't try to make it exist.
No,
But he can.
I don't think it would go well.
No, it wouldn't, because he's like 53 now. You can't be, 29-year-old Eminem at 53. It doesn't work. But he can reflect on it. He can think about it and have opinions on it, because it was him. Like, that's what we all do. We reflect on our past selves. So like, I think that's where the album's going. And I think it's going to be, I don't know. I think he's going to do all the right steps with it. Pull the heartstrings, pull the nostalgia,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of my take. Okay, let's get back into the second verse. Because we've got I really want to talk about this musical thing that he does in this second verse. I think it's super fun. So yeah, he's talking about his drug addiction, ate some codeine as a way of coping, taste of opiates, case of OE, turn me into smiley face emoji. Then he says, my shit may not be age appropriate, but I will hit an 8-year-old in the face with the participation trophy. That delivery, you know what that made me think of? Kill Shot, where he does this really stilted, weird delivery, where he says like, son, listen, dad's not mad, but how you gonna name yourself after a damn gun and have a man bun?
Yes.
Like he can, that stilted delivery actually makes the punchline really funny for whatever reason.
Yeah. I want to say that, but I will hit an 8-year-old in the face with a participation trophy is probably my favorite part of the song.
Oh yeah, I love that. I absolutely love it, because I mean, yeah.
I'm not team participation trophies.
I am not either. Kids at home, listen, you should work hard and earn your trophies based on your hard work,
That's right.
That's just how, the truth is, that's just how the world works. Like,
That's right.
no, they don't get participation trophies.
Ain't no participation trophies at my, yeah. After, I never got a participation trophy at my job.
Yeah, no, I don't get participation trophies. In the real world, there's no such thing. So, not to sound too like boomerish or lecturing, but yeah, like you got to work hard. And I think that that's why this line kind of works for him, especially because Eminem probably worked harder than like everybody ever. Like that's a dude who like really came from the dump, and when he got given the opportunity to work hard and make something of himself, like he went absolutely above and beyond. And he's even said that many times that he could have quit years ago. He's got enough money. I mean, I think, what's he worth now? Like $500 million? I mean,
who knows?
It doesn't matter. He's worth enough. Like, and so I think that's just, Eminem's always been about having work ethic and like not being lazy, not sitting on your butt doing a podcast.
That nobody might listen to.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to listen to it.
That's right.
All right. So anyway, he actually does something really cool here. This isn't what I was talking about, but there's a fun little thing. So something cool about Eminem is that he's actually a great, like he knows a lot of music theory, and he actually knows how to harmonize really well. And he can do it like unbelievably well. So this section here, because I have zero doubts that this whole world's about to turn into some Girl Scouts. That censorship bureau is out to shut me down. So that whole section is like, I think there's like a triple harmony going on there or something. Yeah, very impressive. And again, it's kind of like a break in between, like in the middle of the verse. So I don't know if you noticed, but the second and third verses are actually twice as long as the first verse. And so this is kind of a little thing that he throws in there to keep it interesting instead of just him consistently rapping. So it's like the kind of, you could almost think of it as like a little mini bridge in the middle of the verse, like halfway through the verse. Uh, but then, and yeah, again, he's kind of dissing like, oh, you're all turning into Girl Scouts, and I think the big theme of this song is that like, yeah, Slim Shady would not be tolerating the way the world is now.
Yeah.
But then we get into this part that I love musically. I don't think he's saying anything that's like crazy lyrically. So when I started this verse, it did start off lighthearted at first, but it feels like I'm targeted, mind-boggling how my profit has skyrocketed. Look what I pocketed. Yeah, this shit is just like y'all had been if light jogging and that. And I've been running at full speed, and that's why I'm ahead like my noggin is. Like that, you know, musically is so cool. And I'm going to say this, and I want you to think about it. I don't think that anybody else could pull that section off. The melody, the rhythm, the lyrics, the words. I don't think that anybody could pull it off. Like, obviously, anyone could do it, but I don't think anyone could do it and make it work. Period.
I think I don't know enough about the rap world to really have a firm stance on the decision, but I do think that M is special.
I
Like
think,
I
yeah,
like M will probably go down as top 10 greatest rappers of all time. If like I
I
think
think
that's
I,
a safe.
I think Em will go down as top 5 greatest musicians of all time. Personally, I think that,
Musicians across all genres.
yeah, I do. I really do.
That's a
I
big statement.
that might be a big statement. I think he is. I
But
think that
M doesn't even put himself in the top 5 rap artists of all time. If I
that's fine.
if we
That's fine. He doesn't need to. I think that history is going to look very favorably on Eminem. And in my opinion, honestly, I think there's a lot of things that he does, especially musically, that people don't know about or catch. Maybe maybe one day we'll like do a song off of Music We Murdered by, and we can look at some of like those. His melodies and his rhythms are next level. And like there's a reason why all of the biggest rappers say he's the best. Like everyone, all of them. Jay-Z, Kanye, Drake, Kendrick, I mean, it's pretty unanimous because when you're making the music, when you know what it takes, and then you look at something like this little section where like it feels like I'm targeted, mind-boggling how my profit has skyrocketed. Look what I pocketed. Yeah, this shit is just like y'all have been light jogging. Like that is so, I mean, first off, it's just nuts melodically, but it is so hard to pull something like that off, like performance wise. Um, and I just don't think and it's not the fastest. It's not like it's crazy fast or anything, but the character and the lyrics and the inflection on the words, I mean, could you imagine Drake doing that? No. Like
no.
maybe Kendrick could do it, maybe, but I just don't think he'd be able to nail it. I Kendrick's great, Kendrick's amazing, but I just don't see it. Snoop, no. Dre, no. 50 Cent, no. Kanye, no, absolutely not. Like, I think this is a perfect example, and that's why I wanted to talk about it because I think this is one of those things that's like this little part here is so unique musically. I think it is one of those examples of like, it's kind of like when we talk about like guitar solos and how like the cosmic solo is 100% Sinister Gates. Like I don't think any other guitarist could really pull that solo off the way that Sinister Gates does.
Yeah.
And I think that's an example. This is like a rap example of like this is Eminem doing something that is so uniquely Eminem. Like this is the type of stuff, this is the type of thing where he just really puts his foot down and is like, yeah, I'm y'all can't do the things that I can do type of thing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
might
just
be
think
what
top 5 greatest artists of all time. That's a That's a big statement, especially I think for somebody who doesn't even put himself in the top 5 greatest rappers of all time.
Who would you okay, let's not make it too serious,
Right.
but who would you throw up in like the top 5 to top 10 like greatest artists ever? Like who would be like your
Greatest
toss up?
artist ever?
Yeah.
I,
Like I
I
think
couldn't pull out of my butt right now.
see
Um,
that's what I'm saying. I'm like I think it's really
I mean,
tough, but I'm like
if I had to just rattle off 5 without putting a whole lot of thought, I'm gonna go Beatles because I think they have to be because like the music
yeah,
world says so. Frank Sinatra, Elvis, Queen,
Michael Jackson.
um, yeah, Michael Jackson. That's I feel good about those 5, and I'm sure there's a lot of people I didn't even think about. I mean, there's like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Buddy Rich, Buddy, like or BB King, or
See, and I don't get me wrong, I love all of those. I don't know,
we
man.
didn't even
I
talk. That's like
like
that's not even like top 5 is hard because like then you're trying to pick like just if we
across
talk
genres.
about the yeah, I mean
Fair enough. And yeah, I'm not trying to get into too much of like I do sometimes, and actually we need to talk about that Apple list at some point, the top 100. Oh
yeah.
God. Anyway, but I just think, I guess from my perspective, even though Eminem has gotten all the awards and accolades and popularity, I still sometimes feel like he's underrated because he does things on a skill level and he'll put them in a he will do things that are so unbelievably complicated and difficult to pull off on a top radio hit. And I understand, like, okay, yeah, they're like, I love the Beatles. I'm not dissing the Beatles, but there is nothing that the Beatles are going to do on guitar that, like, any guitarist after the year 2000 can't do, you know? And so it's not a diss. I'm just saying, like, the standards for technical skill were different back then. But it's also really hard. It actually is difficult to put something that is technically impressive into a popular song. That's why, like, I think it's really. I always defend like Inner Sandman by Metallica. People say, "Oh, that song's like their most generic song." I'm like, that solo is not easy. That solo is not easy, and that song is still very much Metallica. It's very hard to do that. It's very hard to put a shredding solo in a top 40 song that gets played everywhere all the time. And so when I see something like this with Houdini, where like the song is blown up and already has just, I mean, God, I think it's already about to, I think it's like increasing views. I think it's at, like he just had the highest streamed date like a day or two ago, and to have sections like this in it, it's like crazy to me. It kind of makes me think of like Afterlife by Avenged Sevenfold with the solo. Like, it's not easy to do that, to put the technical proficiency in there and still make it appealable to a widespread audience. And I think that that's actually something to be applauded. Um, you know, and he does it lots of times. He did it on Godzilla. He did it on Rap God. He does it. He does it here, and he does it on so many different types of songs too. I don't know. Again, I'm not making. I'm not gonna plant my flag right here. Like Eminem is top 5 of all time, and I'll fight you on it. But like, it's more of like, I think that there's something to be said about the level of skill that he has in general, and his way to almost effortlessly put that into songs and have the popularity and have the heartfelt songs still. Like it just feels like he can do anything that he wants at any time, and I just love that. I just think that's amazing. It's amazingly impressive. So there you go.
I can get behind that. Eminem is impressive.
Yeah. It's funny because you get someone like Drake, and it's like, okay, Drake is a great rapper. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that anybody is sitting around talking about how Drake is in the top 5 greatest rappers of all time.
No,
I
I
don't.
agree.
I don't think that conversation's happening, especially not after this beef. So it's like, so I think it's, that's an example of like, okay, Drake knows how to make popular songs and he's really good at it, but he's not like in that conversation of greatest rappers ever, you know? Meanwhile,
Yeah.
you could have some other rapper who can rap the fastest and is the most technically proficient rapper, but again, he can't make a song that means anything to anyone. And then you can get rappers who can write the most heartfelt, saddest song, but they have no clue how to make like an appealing club hit or like a radio song. And it's like Eminem can just do all of it at any time, you know? So I think that just gets overlooked. And it's like it's crazy. Musically, he's crazy. So this section, I think, is just a great example of like, look, this guy is ridiculous. He is just floating on the beat right now, doing things that I think only he can do, like, like light jogging. That's why I'm ahead like my noggin. I'm ahead like my noggin.
Yeah. I got
goofy.
that one. I didn't miss that.
So anyway,
one.
all right, that's enough on that. I said my piece, Aubrey. All right, I said my piece. You can disagree if you want.
I'll hear more about it later, guys, after the podcast. Don't worry.
All right. Anyway, we can move on from that. Anyway, to close out the second verse, he says, "I'm the fight y'all get in when you debate who the best. But ops, I'm white chalking when I step up to that mic. Cock it then. Oh my God, it's him, not again." So yeah, he's basically saying he kills the mic when he steps up to it. And then everyone's like all of his competitors are like, "Oh my God, it's him, not again." Like, no, not him. He's better than us. Anyway, pretty self-explanatory. Okay, we're gonna skip the second chorus. We go straight into this bridge. So this bridge is pretty much explains the point of the song, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just reading through it really quickly. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's yes.
Yeah. It's
don't need to overcomplicate it.
No, it's actually very simple. Sometimes I wonder what the old me'd say if he could say the way shit is today. He'd probably say that everything is gay, like happy. What's my name? What's my name? So yeah, it's very much like, yeah, it's that's the point of the song. That's what the song is about. So we get into the third verse. We already kind of talked about this, but so how many little kids still want to act like me? I'm a bigger prick than cacti be. Top 5 artist, Aubrey. I kid, I'm joking.
I'll hear more about this after the episode. I'm sure, guys. We just can. It'd be like a 5-hour long episode if we just let Cam go.
Listen, I can go. I can talk. Anyway, though, I love that one. I'm a bigger prick than cacti be, and that's why
Yeah.
What?
That was another great lyric. I liked that.
I love that line. That's what I was saying. I think that's hilarious. I'm a bigger prick than cacti be. And that's why these words sting just like you were being attacked by bees. He's just goofing right now. Like, it's just goofy. But it's funny because I've seen like Joe Budden, who I don't know. I think Joe Budden is one of the most unimpressive rappers ever. But I shouldn't say that. I take that back. He's actually pretty cool, and he's got a lot of really cool songs that I think could have been or maybe should have been more popular. But he's such a hater. And I think he just takes himself way too seriously. And so he sees something like this, and it doesn't compute for him. It doesn't make sense. Joe Budden is one of those rappers that, like, he had one decently big song called Pump It Up, and then it was like nothing else ever really took off after that. The biggest he ever got after that was when he joined Slaughterhouse, and Eminem was promoting him. And then he was actually the one that caused Slaughterhouse to fall apart. And Slaughterhouse was great. I don't know if you ever listened to any Slaughterhouse, but
I don't think so. I don't even know who Joe Budden is.
He's like a podcaster, mainly talks about like rap stuff. Again, he is a very good rapper, but he's a perfect example of like the dude never made music that could like he never made music that had like any sort of widespread appeal. And even the songs that he did make that were like really great, it's not like they were the greatest song ever. Like, he was a solid rapper, very good, but just never quite took off in the way that I think he thought he deserved to. And so when I think when it came to this song, like his co-hosts were liking it, but he was like, I'm not reviewing that. I don't like that at all. And I think it's funny because I'm like, you don't get it. Like, you just don't seem to get it, do you? Like, not every song has to be like that. Not every song needs to be. But he's also the guy that was dissing Eminem whenever Eminem tried to make like politically deep songs as well. So he's just a hater. But I think when you have these lines like I'm a bigger prick than Cacti Bee, it's like it's supposed to be goofy. It's supposed to be fun, like lighten up, you know? Like
Yeah.
So
it kind of like almost has like a Weird Al kind of humor to it.
Well, exactly. And I think it's funny too, because I think Weird Al is one of those examples of someone who is extraordinarily goofy, but very well respected because of how good he is. Yeah, and he deserves the respect. And so it's interesting. It's like a song can't be good unless it's deep and heartfelt. It's like that's not true at all. Sometimes just putting on a fun song is fun, you know?
Yeah.
Like not every song, and we'll talk about like more, because so far I think between this and Hell's Bells we've really only talked about like kind of fun songs, but there are beautiful, amazing works of art that you can talk about. It doesn't mean that the fun ones are bad. Like what do you like? So what? Like a fun painting is a bad painting now because it's not depicting some deep traumatic thing or something? Like it's silly. This is fun. We're having fun. So. And I think it works too. Like it's actually a funny line. I'm a bigger prick than Cacti Bee. Like it's actually funny. It's one thing if he was trying to be funny and he's not, which I guess some people might think that, but I think it's actually hilarious. So whatever. In the coupe, leaning back my seat, bumping R. Kelly's favorite group, the Black Guy Peas. I don't know. If I'm a bigger prick than Cacti Bee doesn't get you, that has to. That's the funniest line in the song, in my opinion. That's amazing. Like, and he even does like the little ad libs in between too. R. Kelly's favorite group, the Black Guy Peas. It's like,
yeah,
it's hilarious. That is so funny. It's such a clever line. And I mean, obviously he's riffing off of the Black Eyed Peas, and then R. Kelly peeing on people. Anyway, if you don't get the line, for people who are listening,
different strokes for different folks.
Yeah, I don't know. Fine, if that's what you like to do. Just don't be a really famous pop artist and let Eminem hear about it, because he will put it in his number one single.
Yes.
All right. In my Air Max 90s, white tees, walking parental advisory. So I think this is actually funny because I've noticed this on some of his songs too. I think they're not really throwaway lines, but it's like he just had a really good line with the Black Guy Peas line, and then these are kind of like, while people are laughing, he can say this, and it still works fine. Yeah. And in fact, I actually really like the line "walk-in parental advisory." That's really clever. But it gives people like a little break. Like they don't have to pay attention to those lines to still keep moving forward. So then we get into my transgender cat's Siamese, identifies as black but acts Chinese. Again, I think kind of what we were saying before, where like he's saying the word transgender and identify and all that, but this isn't really like, I don't think this is really controversial. It's more goofy and fun, you know?
Yeah. I don't think there's malice behind it at all.
Exactly.
I think if Slim Shady wants to be malicious, it's not a question. Like he can be malicious. Yeah,
you know, like he'll say that shit. Like, oh my god. So yeah, this is just him having fun. Like a mother effing hacky sack, I treat the whole world because I got it at my feet. Yeah, that's fun. How can I explain to you that even myself I'm a danger to? I hop on tracks like a kangaroo and say a few things or two to anger you. So that's all pretty normal stuff. Just like he's kind of setting up the next half of the verse. So that is halfway through the verse, by the way, that anger you. And then this second half, we spoke about this a little bit, but he actually doesn't cuss a lot in this song.
Comparatively.
Yeah. Until this part. And this is why this next part is why the song doesn't get played on the radio. But F that, and we're gonna say F that just so we don't say the F word a million times and get our podcast removed from Spotify.
Yeah, don't worry. In our personal lives, we do not censor ourselves.
We do cuss. We are cool. Like we do cuss. All right, so we're just gonna say all right, but f that. If I think that shit, I'm gonna say that shit. Cancel me. What? Okay, that's it. Like, and again, Eminem's not cancelable. It's actually kind of cringe right now, though. People are like, "Oh, Gen Z's trying to cancel Eminem." Like, okay, like what? Like
They
three
can't do it.
people on Twitter.
They're not,
You,
they're not
you can't do it.
powerful enough.
You're not
Yeah.
powerful, but also I don't think that many people are actually trying to do that. I think it's it's just
Yeah,
the
it's
Megan Thee
just
Stallion
media.
fans who are losers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're
It's
gonna
just
overhype.
media crap.
Exactly. But anyway, so then he says, "Go ahead, Paul. Quit, snake ass prick. You male crossdresser, fake ass bitch." Um, yeah, that might be controversial too, but I don't care. Like, or it's I don't think it's not that I don't care. That's not what I meant to say. I meant to say more of like he's using the controversial words, but I don't think it's actually like a malicious, controversial statement. That's a better way to put it. I shouldn't say I don't care. That's not really true. We're on what, 2 hours now?
Probably.
Yeah. All right. So then Eminem kind of acknowledges that there. He's like, and I'll probably get shit for that, but you can all suck my dick, in fact. And then he goes on the big tangent. This is like the big, like, kind of the big climax thematically of the song, I think, where he says, F them, F Dre, F Jimmy, F me, F you, F my own kids, they're brats. That's hilarious. If you know anything about Eminem and his kids, that's like the biggest deal to him. So for him to come out with this song and diss him, no one's safe.
Hide your kids, hide your wife.
Hide his own kids. Yeah, it's funny though. Eminem, right? Like Eminem, like I want to give a shout out to him here though. He, in case you don't know, I don't know how much you know about this, but like Haley's his only biological kid, but then he's got like a half daughter, Elena, I think her name is, and then
Maybe.
Whitney is like his niece. So he actually adopted 2 other kids. So he's raised 3 kids and put them all through college. They turned out pretty good. Like Haley's on social media now, which is kind of weird. But yeah, they're all in the music video too, which I thought was fun because he like never does anything with them now because they're adults. I think that's like a thing. He wants to make sure that they're not getting
They're their
overwhelmed.
own.
Yeah, let them do their own thing. So yeah, anyway, this whole section is just really fun because he's saying F all the people that he's actually friends with. Again, none of this is malicious. It's just a lot of fun. They can screw off. Them and you all. You too, Paul. Got 2 balls. Big as RuPaul's. Funny. What you thought you saw ain't what you saw. Now here's a really interesting. Okay, so we're gonna kind of close it out real quick. But there's an interesting musical thing that happens here, where he's gonna finish the song on a different like flow pattern that's a little awkward. So he does a little lead in here to get your brain used to it. So he says like, again, they can screw off. Them and you all. You too, Paul. Got 2 balls. Big as RuPaul's. What you thought you saw ain't what you saw. Cause you're never gonna see me. That little line right there is really important. He did this on purpose. Cause you're never gonna see me. Caught sleeping and see the kidnapping never did happen. And that's where he kind of goes back to a similar pattern from before. But then he goes, like Sherry Papini, Harry Houdini, I vanish into the thin air as I'm leaving. So that's a weird change. Da 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 da. Like coming from that da 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 da. So he throws that little like, because you're never gonna see me, caught sleeping and see the kidnapping never did happen. Like Sherry Papini, Harry Houdini. So I wanted to point that out. Just a little lead in, kind of similar. I don't want to say it's similar to that little guitar thing in Hell's Bells. It's not really, but it is in the sense that like he's about to make a change and he wants that change to go smoothly. So he's going to get you used to that type of melody for a second and then finish out the verse. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. And then, yeah, the song has one last chorus. There's no change other than the very end. The music just goes, which is just a regular ending, nothing crazy. And that's the song. We got through the whole chronology chronology of it. That's a word. Yeah, another one in the books. This one really fun. It's funny. I actually was thinking it would take us less time, but there's just a lot of
I
good tangents going.
I was gonna say I was curious to see because like Hell's Bells is like a 5.5 minute song, and this is just under
Mhm.
4. I was curious to see the time
Mhm.
sync difference, but there's a lot more to like pick apart. I feel like in this song.
Yeah, I think that there was. It's very well. It's a very dense song too. Like there is a lot.
Yes,
Like he is throwing a lot at you, both like in terms of the themes and the bars and the melodies and everything. Like there's just a lot to talk about. Um, so yeah, I think overall like it's just solid. Like it's just a very dense song. It's good. So yeah, let's go through our little like template here. So the purpose of this song. I want to talk about the purpose again. Um, so this song, he obviously planned it to be the first single from the death of Slim Shady. Uh, and so my note says, it's meant to evoke his past, but in a reflective way, he's capturing this nostalgia without relying on it. So notice how we spent all that time, and I was even a little bit critical of the intro, but like once we got into the actual song itself, there was no like I don't feel like there was any reliance on there was no reliance on nostalgia. He was reflecting
right.
and being nostalgic, but there was no reliance. It all stood on its own. So,
I would say he got your attention, and which is what he needed to do with the intro. And now that you're hooked, here's what I have to offer you, kind of thing.
yep. And that's what you just said, I think, is actually the purpose of this song with regards to the album as a whole. He did this song to get everybody's attention, get them hooked, um,
Just
get them
theoretically,
ready.
what a single should do, hype you up for
Y-
the album.
Yeah, no, this one, I mean, for a single, it's perfect. Like, he's nailed it. It's everything it needed to be. Again, capture the nostalgia without relying on it. Simple chorus, nothing crazy, but it was a crowd pleaser, which I think the song overall is meant to be. Um, so yeah, the purpose of this song again, something fun, a little throwback to the old Slim Shady days. Bring people into this new album and what he's going for, which I think is to be reflective of his past. And yeah, I think he nailed all of that. It's a very purposeful song. Um, I think it's great for Eminem fans. Anyone who's a fan of Eminem will love it. Uh, People who aren't Eminem fans, they're whatever. I don't know. Go listen to somebody else. I just find it crazy. How can you be like a fan of music and not be a fan of Eminem? It always blows my mind. Um,
Well, I mean,
but
it's just a
anyway,
difference in
yeah,
like values, opinions, and like just preference.
yeah. No, I feel you, and I think that's why I wanted to talk about the song too, because again, our kind of idea is to look at it objectively and like the merit of the song, like what all it does, and I think yeah, maybe that's like a little call to action for people. Like, hey, if you've never actually listened to Eminem before, or if you've never gone and listened to one of his albums, I would highly recommend you go do it. You've probably at least heard his singles, but his deep cuts are a lot of times better, in my opinion. He's a
I
musician's
think,
musician.
yeah, I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, he cares a lot about the music and the song and the art of it.
Yeah,
But
I don't think
he's
there's a single like note or lyric that he has not gone over with a fine tooth
mhm.
comb. It's very, 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 very intentional.
Yeah, there's a reason he's as popular as he is, and so yeah, I think the first time I listened to Recovery, I was blown away at how diverse that album was. Like every single song had a completely unique vibe, but they all worked well together. They all sounded like they belonged on the same album, which is awesome. That's exactly what you want. So, um, yeah. So then talking about like the genre and style, this is rap, but it interpolates the classic rock song, which is very interesting. And honestly, a very classic Eminem thing. He's always,
Yeah.
brought in guitars and rock instruments in his music on almost all of his albums, honestly. So, yeah, just an interesting little blend there, rapping over classic rock. But that's cool. Then I've got the song structure. It is probably like the most basic song structure you can have. It is intro, verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus. That's literally it. No little secret things. So again, like it's funny because like rap verses are almost like guitar solos in a way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like rather than a verse, you could call it like vocal solo or something. I don't know, but structurally the song is about as simple as it gets, and in fact, it's not even like his vocals are the only thing that determine the structure because the music is all the same pretty much throughout the whole song. So which brings me to my next thing, which is the composition. So he was going for like the magician vibe, Houdini, my last trick type of thing, and yeah, the music nails that. His verses and the melodies in his verses are phenomenal, but palatable to a wider audience. That was the note I left. Yeah, I don't think it doesn't feel like he watered it down like his rapidy rap stuff, but it does feel like he adapted it in a way that would work for this song and what he wanted to do with this song as the lead single. Any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I would just say pretty much the same thing he did. So not to beat a dead horse here.
No, you're good. Cool. Okay, I've only got like a few more, and maybe I'll trim this down a little bit. But the mix, I did want to talk about the mix for just a second. The mix is super old school. I was very surprised by this because he's actually embraced like newer production on the past few albums, like Kamikaze. But there are like, if there's an 808, I'm not really hearing it. I mean, there might be an 808, but it's very simplified, very
You might have to explain what that is.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So an 808 is a bass. Like it
Yeah,
is
I know.
a
I know that is, but I don't know. I don't know that that would be like a common knowledge thing.
yeah. So an 808. Well, let me be clear. An 808 is actually a keyboard from the 80s, and it was one of the first keyboards that could do sub bass frequencies. And so the term 808 became synonymous with the sub bass stuff, like the boom 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 that you hear on rap songs. Guess who's back? Back again. Cameron's back. All right, sorry, we had some technical difficulties. Okay, so we were talking about 808s real quick. So just a little bit of background. I think Kanye popularized 808s with his album 808 and Heartbreak, where he focused on just using like super heavy bass to get like this kind of depressing mood. And ever since then, it's just been like a norm. So what I was saying, I'm not sure if the recording caught it, but the production on Houdini is actually very dry and very absent a lot of the typical modern production stuff. I was comparing it. My note says boom bap because boom bap is like the trebly style. Boom bap is basically like 80s rap production where it's very like do ba do ba, and so yeah, that very like dry, sparse production, not super bass heavy, is an old school thing. Just because the speakers back then and the technology back then couldn't have the same bass frequencies as we do now. So I like that. It was a little bit of a deviation from the norm, which is fun. And again, like a throwback to the old school stuff. So yeah. There's
No
that.
wub,
No
no
wub
wubbas,
wub.
and no wubbas and dubbas.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes I'll put on like a song from Music to Be Murdered by, and my car has like subs in it, and it's just too much. It honestly annoys me. So I was actually kind of happy. It's like, oh God, I've always thought it's a little annoying when it's overdone. So yeah, this is fun. Okay, lyrical content. I think the main I guess this ties in with the theme too, but the main thing is how would Slim Shady view 2024, and from the point of view of 2024 Eminem, how would Slim Shady deal with 2024? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like he's, I say here, like he says controversial things, but he keeps it lighthearted and funny, even dissing his kids. The song is mainly reflective. It's a very reflective song. You know, he's playing into the nostalgia, absolutely, but he's kind of embracing it. But he's embracing the nostalgia, but he's not pretending like he's young. Again, he's still being him, and he's reflecting on what it was like when he was younger and all of that. But again, in a very fun, goofy way, and still playing off of it, like that Slim Shady character. So yeah, I guess my final like artistic merit, whatever rating for this or whatever, not rating, but my note here was it's not the greatest Eminem song by a long shot, and it's more of a crowd pleaser for older fans. But every single line and piece of the puzzle serves a purpose, and I think he nailed what he wanted to do with it, and it turns out to be a really fun throwback song to old Eminem. So
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that it probably won't go down as one of his greatest songs ever written, but I think it serves its purpose perfectly.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of important too. Like going back to what we were saying about like fun songs and stuff. Like not every song that you write has to be the greatest song you've ever written. Some of them can just be fun, like a little thing that you felt like putting together. Um, I do think you should, when you write something, you should have a purpose for it and have reasons for doing the things that you do and making the musical decisions you make. But that doesn't mean that every song needs to be this just super deep, super like what, like it doesn't need to be like that. It can be fun. It can be simple. And yeah, that is Houdini. I think we covered just about all of it. I don't think there's anything left.
No, I mean, I think we, if anything, maybe went off on too many tangents.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a fun song. I cannot wait for the album. We'll probably I'd
I
be
am excited for the album.
yeah, I think the album's going to be great. I think we're probably going to we'll definitely do a song from the album or something when it comes out.
Yeah,
Um
yeah.
yeah, it's just yeah, obviously, we're for anyone listening, like, we're fans of Eminem. We love him. I think he's great, and but we try to look at this song objectively, and I think the chorus is it's just pretty normal, and I'm personally a little meh on the intro, but I always love listening to him rap. It's like listening to you know it's like watching like a master swordsman fight with his sword or something. Like they just do things, and you're like whoa, like
Yeah.
so. All right.
Yeah, he's a master of his craft.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, Aubrey, do you have any ideas for next week's song?
Um, yeah, actually, kind of talking
Yeah.
about fun songs. I got an idea. I was like, oh, maybe this would be a good idea for our next episode.
Hmm.
And I talked about it, I think, in our first episode, maybe, or maybe it was you and I talking separately.
Hmm.
Um, and this is just like a pure example of I think it's a greatly written song, but it is just fun.
Okay.
And I don't think you know it. It's a Clutch song called "Hot Bottom Feeder."
Hot bottom
Um,
feeder.
yes, it is literally a rock band that made a song about making crab cakes.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. I've definitely never heard it, so I think that
I,
would be.
I was gonna say, yeah. You can give it a listen, and if you're like, no, that's fine, and then we can just edit out this whole last part, maybe.
Yeah.
um,
No, I
but
mean, I'll give it a listen if you think, yeah, we should do it. I think it'd
I
be fun
think,
too, because I mean, these two songs have been ones that I actually know really, really well or have been very passionate about. I think it would be fun to pick a song that I'm not as like, because again, I've listened to a little bit of Clutch, but I'm not like the biggest fan. Um, not, and I don't, sorry, I mean, as in like, they're not like and a band that I listen to a lot. I don't mean like I'm not the biggest fan because I don't like
Yeah.
them. It's not like that. Yeah, I think that'd be fun to do a song that is just kind of totally from a band that is totally new for me. So I'm
Yeah.
down.
But I do think if we don't do that song, it'll be a song that I think maybe is more fun in
Yeah,
its intent versus being some masterpiece. I
yeah,
think that'd be good for us to do.
yeah, definitely. I think that'd be super fun. So okay, cool. Well, there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Like I said, um, well, I don't know what I was gonna say. I'm just talking. Yeah, this was a long one. This was a long episode. So,
It
but
was.
again, I'm enjoying it. I like this is kind of the point of the show was to really get into the nuts and bolts and get give some value there rather than just be like, yeah, I like it. Like, why? Why do we like it? What's going on with the production? That type of stuff. So cool. All right. Well, on that note, let's end it. What is it? Wale.
Yeah, we gotta sound like more Italian with it, like a wale. But yeah, I mean the essence was
Wale.
there.
Are you Italian?
Yeah,
I see. I'm not.
a part of me, a very small percentage of part of me,
Oh,
but
well,
you
I'm
know,
sure part of me is Italian too.
you know.
Okay.
But
Wale, Aubrey. Wale.
yes, alrighty, you guys. Well, we will not see you guys, but I guess you'll listen to us next week. Hopefully, maybe.
Yep. All right. Peace out. Bye bye.